Have you ever been there? Being in the middle of an important conversation and suddenly realizing you haven't heard anything from the last 30 seconds? Or driving home without remembering half the way? Reading the same sentence 3 times and still not absorbing it? People call it distraction, lack of focus, head in the clouds. But what if I told you it has nothing to do with intelligence or ability? What if the real problem is something no one taught you as a child? There's an ancient Japanese samurai concept that explains exactly why your mind dwells in the past or the future, but never in the present. They call it Zanshin, the art of continuous awareness. And when you understand how it works, you realize a devastating truth. You spend your entire life absent from your own existence. But here's the part no one tells you. Training Zanshin isn't about meditation or deep breathing. It's about survival. Because a samurai distracted for even a second was a dead samurai. And you're dying one day at a time without even realizing it. Before I show you how your mind can be sabotaging you every day, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like it below, and answer the following question. Do you feel like you can't stay mentally present in places or during a task? Your contribution helps the channel reach more people and helps me produce increasingly better content. Thank you very much for being here. Back to the video. Chapter 1. The Ghost. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a lawyer named Michael. He was a brilliant guy, graduated from an elite university, earned a good living and had a loving family. But Michael suffered from exactly the problem we're talking about in this video. He was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. During meetings, her mind planned dinner. During dinner, she mentally reviewed work emails. When she played with her children, she thought about the following week's deadlines. When she tried to sleep, she ruminated on conversations she'd had 3 days ago. His wife once said, "It's like you were never really here." And she was right. Michael was a ghost in his own life, physically present, mentally absent. He tried everything the modern internet suggests, mindfulness apps with those calming voices telling him to watch your breath, productivity techniques promising laser focus, computer distraction blockers, therapy, anxiety medication. Nothing worked because he was treating the symptom, not the cause. The problem wasn't that Michael was distracted. The problem was that Michael had never learned to be present. And there's a stark difference between those two things. Chapter 2. The Sword That Never Rests. Let me tell you how the samurai thought about attention. For them, it wasn't an optional skill. It was the difference between life and death. Imagine this scenario. You're a samurai in feudal Japan. You've just won a duel. Your opponent is on the ground. The fight is over, right? Wrong. Because the second you relax, the second your mind celebrates victory or thinks about what comes next, you're vulnerable. It's at this precise moment that a wounded opponent can make a final attack. It's when a second adversary can emerge from the shadows. It's when you trip over a rock you didn't see because you were already thinking about something else. Zanshin was the answer to this. The word literally means lingering mind or lingering heart. It's not about being tense. It's not paranoia. It's a state of relaxed alertness that continues even after the action is over. A swordmaster named Miyamoto Musashi wrote, "The warrior's spirit does not cease at the moment of victory. It persists through the next moment and the next without gap. No gaps." Do you understand the weight of this sentence? Your modern life doesn't have swords, but it does have something equally deadly. The complete fragmentation of your consciousness. You're not being attacked by samurai, but you're being slaughtered by something far worse, the total absence of yourself in your own experience. Michael discovered Zanshin by accident. He was researching martial arts to enroll his 8-year-old son in judo classes when he came across a video about kendo, Japanese fencing. What mesmerized him wasn't the strikes or the technique. It was something the instructor said. Even after landing the strike, the kendoka maintains Zanshin. His posture remains, his attention remains, because the moment isn't over just because you decide it is. It was like being punched in the gut. Michael realized he'd spent his entire life acting as if moments ended when he stopped paying attention. Conversations ended because he'd mentally already left. Meals ended because he was already thinking about the next appointment. Moments with his children evaporated because his mind had already jumped to work. He wasn't living life. He was jumping from thought to thought, using reality as an irritating backdrop to his own constant mental narrative. Chapter 3. The Experiment. Michael decided to do a test, a brutal experiment in self-honesty. For an entire day, he would carry a small notebook in his pocket. Every time he noticed his mind had wandered, that he was physically in one place but mentally in another, he would make a mark. First hour, 8 marks. Second hour, 12 marks. At the end of the working day, 47 marks. 47 times in a single day he realized he was completely absent from the present moment. And those were just the times he noticed it. How many other times was he absent without even noticing? He did the math. If he was awake 16 hours a day and distracted 47 times, that meant every 20 minutes his mind was hijacking him from reality. That was 20 minutes of presence followed by minutes or hours of complete mental absence. Michael was living approximately 30% of his life. The other 70% he was somewhere in his own head, ruminating on the past or anxious about the future. His wife asked what he was doing with the notebook. When he explained, she asked a question that changed everything. And what are you going to do about it? Good question. Because recognizing the problem is easy. But how do you practice something no one taught you? How do you learn to be present when you've spent 35 years practicing absence? A Harvard University neuroscientist who has been studying attention for 18 years discovered something fascinating. The human brain spends approximately 47% of its time wandering, thinking about things that aren't happening in the present moment. And the more the mind wanders, the less happy people report being. It's not what we're doing that determines our happiness. It's whether we're present while we're doing it. Chapter 4. The Invisible Training. Michael began researching how martial artists actually trained Zanshin, and he discovered something no one mentions in motivational YouTube videos. There's no such thing as Zanshin training. Zanshin isn't a technique. It's a layer that exists on top of everything else you do. In traditional dojos, masters don't say, "Now let's practice mindfulness." They simply correct you every time your presence falters. Do you look away a second before the strike ends? Corrected. Do you relax your posture immediately after the technique? Corrected. Do you break form before the master dismisses you? Corrected. 1,000 small corrections that, over years, build something that seems supernatural. A person who is completely present in every microsecond of the experience. Michael realized he needed to do the same in everyday life. But how? He didn't have a kendo master following him around all day, correcting his attention. That's when he created what he called return anchors, small physical reminders scattered throughout life that brought him back to the present. They weren't mantras or affirmations. They were sensory triggers, impossible to ignore. The first anchor, the office doorknob. Every time I touched it, entering or leaving, I had to mentally answer one question. Where am I now? Not philosophically, literally. I'm entering the office. My feet are on the grey carpet. The air conditioning is making noise. It seemed silly, it seemed too simple to matter, but on the third day, something strange happened. Michael was leaving a meeting, touched the doorknob, asked the automatic question, "Where am I now?" and realized he didn't know how to answer. His mind was already 3 hours in the future, on the next call. His body was leaving the room, but he wasn't there. That microsecond of recognition changed everything. He literally stopped, took a breath, and forced himself to register. I'm in the hallway. I just got out of the meeting with Jennifer. My hands are holding my laptop. I can hear someone talking on the phone 2 rooms away. 5 seconds of forced presence, nothing spiritual, nothing deep, just being where your feet were. He added more anchors. The car seatbelt. Before starting the engine, take 3 conscious breaths, noticing the sensations. The dining room chair. Before starting to eat, observe the colors of the food on the plate. The bed. Before sleeping, feel the weight of your body on the mattress for 10 seconds. Small islands of presence in an ocean of distraction. His wife noticed the change before he did. One night while they were having dinner, she stopped mid-sentence and said, "You're really listening to me." It wasn't a question. It was a realization. There was something different in his eyes. He was there. Chapter 5. The Silent War. But here comes the part that no one prepares you for about practicing presence. Your brain hates it. Why? Because your brain was designed to keep you alive in a world of predators and scarcity. And in that ancient world, staying present in the moment without constantly thinking about tomorrow was dangerous. You should have been scanning the environment for threats, planning where to find food tomorrow, thinking about social mistakes that could get you kicked out of the tribe. Your brain treats the present as a trap. Don't get too comfortable here. There are dangers in the future. There are unlearned lessons from the past. Escape the now. Michael found this out the hard way. By the third week of practice, he was having the best breakfast in months, truly savoring it, noticing textures, temperatures, flavors, completely present. And out of nowhere, a wave of anxiety. Out of nowhere, for no reason. Just a growing discomfort with being there in that moment, without planning anything, without worrying about anything. His brain was literally punishing him for being there. A cognitive psychology researcher at Yale University, who has been studying attentional processes for 14 years, explains, the prefrontal cortex has an evolutionary function to simulate future scenarios and process past experiences. When we force the mind to stay in the present, we are literally going against millions of years of neurological programming. The discomfort we feel is not weakness. It is the brain protesting against something it interprets as dangerous. Michael almost gave up there. Presence wasn't bringing peace. It was bringing discomfort. Every time he managed to stay present for more than a minute, his body reacted with restlessness, with the urge to check his phone, with intrusive thoughts about anything that might pull him out of the moment. That's when he understood something crucial about Zanshin that samurai knew instinctively. Presence isn't comfortable. It's powerful. A samurai in Zanshin is not relaxed in the modern sense. He is alert. He is feeling everything. And feeling everything includes discomfort, boredom, and anxiety. But he doesn't run away from these sensations. He observes them without being overwhelmed by them. The stark difference is this. An ordinary person feels discomfort and immediately seeks distraction. Michael was feeling discomfort and remaining there, observing it, without reacting. The first few days it lasted 10 seconds, then 30, then a minute. Not because it got easier, because he got stronger, and that's when people started to notice something strange about him. Chapter 6. The Invisible Effect. A co-worker asked if he'd started any new medications. He said Michael seemed slower, but in a good way, that he no longer interrupted people mid-sentence, that he paused before responding as if he were really thinking. His boss commented that the quality of his work had changed. Fewer stupid mistakes. Less rework because he hadn't paid attention to detail. His reports were more accurate. But the most brutal change happened at home. His 8-year-old son was telling him about something that happened at school. Michael realized that, for the first time in months, he was listening to every word. He wasn't planning his answer. He wasn't mentally checking off his to-do list. He was just listening. And in the middle of the story, the boy stopped and asked, "Dad, are you okay?" "Yes, I am. Why?" "You're looking at me differently." Michael didn't know what to say. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that you finally learned to be in the same room as them? But Michael also noticed something disturbing. The more he practiced Zanshin, the more he saw how the rest of the world lived in complete absence. Meetings full of people physically present but mentally elsewhere. Conversations where no one really listened. They just waited their turn to speak. Drivers speeding 1-ton machines while their minds were miles away. It was like watching The Matrix. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. He was in a restaurant when he noticed a couple at the next table. Complete silence, both on their cell phones, food getting cold. They weren't dining together. They were dining alone in the same place. And he realized, for years he was that guy. For years his wife ate dinner alone while he was mentally at the office. His children played alone while he was physically there, but truly absent. How much real lifetime had he wasted living in his own head? Chapter 7. The Final Test. 7th week of practice. Michael was driving to work when a car swerved into his lane without signaling. He braked suddenly. His heart raced. Adrenaline was pumping. And here Zanshin showed his true worth. Normally he'd spend the next 20 minutes ruminating. imagining confrontations, replaying what might have happened, his mind hijacking the present to relive a danger that had already passed. But this time, something different happened. He noticed the thoughts appearing. That idiot could have caused an accident. What if I had crashed? What if... And he simply didn't get caught up in them. He watched his thoughts drift by like clouds. He returned to the present, hands on the wheel, feet on the pedals, eyes on the road. Breathing returned to normal. The event lasted 5 seconds. The mental recovery lasted 30 seconds, not 20 minutes, not the whole day, not... This is Zanshin in action. It's never getting distracted. It's coming back quickly when you do get distracted. It's not letting a 5-second moment steal hours of your life. Michael realized he was training the same muscle the samurai trained. Not the never get distracted muscle, that's impossible, but the return to the present quickly muscle. A samurai isn't someone who never lets his guard down. He's someone who, when he lets it down, raises it again before it becomes fatal. He started timing himself. How many seconds did it take between realizing he was distracted and returning to the present? First week, 2 to 3 minutes on average, sometimes hours. Second week, 1 minute. Fourth week, 20 to 30 seconds. Eighth week, 5 to 10 seconds. He wasn't getting less distracted. He was getting faster at getting back. And that difference changed everything, because life isn't measured in grand moments. It's measured in seconds, in micro decisions, in small acts of kindness or absence that accumulate over decades until they form something we call a life well lived, or a life wasted. But there was a final level of training, something Michael only discovered when he thought he had it all figured out, an aspect of Zanshin that completely changes how you see the world. Chapter 8. Expanded Presence. Michael had been practicing for 3 months when he noticed something bizarre. He was in an important meeting, present, paying attention to what was being said. But simultaneously, he was aware of the entire room. He noticed someone shift their posture 3 chairs to the left. He noticed the person at the head of the table discreetly check their phone. He felt the temperature of the room change when someone opened the door. He wasn't distracted by these things. He was aware of them while remaining focused on the main conversation. This was different. It wasn't just paying attention to one thing. It was expanded peripheral awareness. Zanshin on a level he hadn't known existed. He researched and discovered that martial arts masters call this metsuke, looking at everything without focusing on anything specific. You see your opponent, but you also see your surroundings. You're present in the moment, yet aware of everything in the moment. It's not multitasking. Multitasking is doing several things poorly at the same time. This was such a profound presence that it naturally expanded to include more than just the focal point. And that's when Michael understood why people describe martial arts masters as having eyes in their backs, or a sixth sense. It's nothing mystical. It's awareness trained to the point where the brain processes peripheral information without losing its central focus. He tested this by driving. Instead of focusing solely on the car in front, he expanded his attention. The car in front, side mirrors, rear view mirrors, speedometer, engine sounds, all simultaneously in his tension-free field of awareness. And he realized something incredible. He was driving better. He reacted faster. He anticipated situations, not because he was paying more attention in the sense of effort, because he was present in a more complete way. His wife noticed him doing this the first night they were home. He was talking to her while the kids played in the next room. Usually, he was either talking to her or keeping an eye on the kids. A failed multitasker who did neither one thing nor the other well. But this time he was actually listening to her and simultaneously aware of what was happening in the other room. Not divided, expanded. She commented, "It feels like you're more here, like completely here," and she was right. Chapter 9. The Last Lesson. 4 months after the notebook experiment, Michael took the test again. He spent a whole day counting how many times he missed attendance. The number, 8 times, from 47 to 8. It still wasn't perfect. Perfection is impossible, and not even the goal. But it was real transformation. And here's what he realized that night, writing in his journal. Zanshin isn't about being better at things. It's about being present for things, and when you're present, things naturally get better. He didn't get smarter. He became more present, which allowed the intelligence he already had to function without interference. You didn't become less stressed because life became easier. You became less stressed because you stopped living 70% of the time in an imaginary timeline of regrets and anxieties. He didn't become a different person. He became the same person, but finally inhabiting his own life instead of watching from afar. A Zen monk with 40 years of practice summed it up perfectly in an interview. Zanshin is not a meditation technique. It is life lived with the same quality of attention you would have if every moment could be your last. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Respect for the moment, for those with you, for yourself. 6 months later, Michael was in a park watching his son play soccer. A typical scene. Parents in the stands, half on their phones, half talking to each other, everyone partially present. And he was there, completely. Seeing every movement, hearing every scream, feeling the sun on his skin. He wasn't recording on his phone to post later. He wasn't thinking about work tomorrow. He wasn't planning dinner. He was 100% there. And his son looked at him from the field, smiled and waved. It wasn't a special gesture. But Michael saw it. He really saw it. Because he was looking. How many of these moments had he missed in the last 35 years? How many times had his children waved and he missed them because he was mentally elsewhere? You can't make up for lost time, but you can stop wasting the time you have left. This is the brutal and beautiful promise of Zanshin. You can't change the fact that you've spent years absent, but you can decide now to be present, and now again. So here's the truth no one wants to hear. You're not stupid. You don't have attention deficit disorder. You don't need more productivity apps or focus techniques. You were just never taught to be where your feet are. Your mind has been hijacked since childhood by a culture that glorifies multitasking speed and always being one step ahead. And now you live in a race where you're always arriving at places you've never actually been. Zanshin isn't a quick fix. It's not a hack. It's a daily, lifelong practice of simply being present. And when you practice it, when you really practice it, something changes. You stop being a ghost in your own life. People start to notice something different about you. They can't quite put their finger on it, but they feel it. They feel that when you're with them, you're really with them. What about you? You finally experience something most people will never experience, being alive while you're alive. The question isn't whether you can, it's whether you will, because the choice is yours, right now, in this moment. Are you truly here? Or are you absent, planning when you'll start living for real? Time doesn't wait. Moments don't repeat themselves. Your children won't be children forever. The people you love won't be here forever. And you? You won't get a second chance to live this life. Zanshin is the art of honoring this, of treating every moment as if it matters, because it does, every single one. You don't need a sword, you don't need a dojo, you don't need to become a samurai. You just need to be where your feet are. Now, and now, and now again. If this video changed your perspective on presence and attention, I invite you again to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss future content. And tell me in the comments, what will be your first return anchor to help you be present? Remember, your life is happening now, not when you finish that project, not when things calm down, now, and you're missing out while you wait for the perfect moment to start paying attention. If you've watched this far, thank you very much for your attention and your time. Until the next video.